building. We here.
Welcome to the Brothers in Influence podcast, where we stand to encourage, inspire, and add value in the areas of life, leadership, and community. Here with my brother, it is July 2nd, 2022. I'm excited to be here. Let's get it popping. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you don't know now, you know my name is Ian, your purpose coach. You can find me across social media at Ian Coaches on Facebook as well as Instagram. Ian at Ian Coaches, because that's what I do. I happen to be sitting shoulder to shoulder with my brother, who I will have give an opportunity to introduce himself after I hype him up. Of course, our resident thought coach, father, husband, all around amazing guy, mentoring the next generation out here, making change, being the change we want to see in the world, man. I'm gonna stop there because
Man, I don't even need to say nothing else, man. You done put me on the 20. I thought I was just on the 10. But I am Shawty Price. I am your thought coach. You can find me all on all social media platforms, Shawty the Bar Price. And it's an honor and a privilege every time I come together with my brothers to speak out some wisdom, some knowledge, and always get some clear understanding of some things, right? I love it.
Yes, sir, man. And what is it? We've got it's 4th of July weekend, right?
Yep.
I don't know what we're doing out here. I'm probably gonna put something on the grill. I don't know what that means for 4th of July, but I know we're eating.
Most definitely eating one way or another. Gotta always eat something.
We're gonna do that for sure. Man, I think that's an interesting conversation though. But let's catch up first. So how's your week been, bro?
As you say, your hat says, entre believer. I've been entre believing this week. Absolutely.
Okay. I love it.
Just prepping for my, wouldn't say new adventure, but my enhanced adventure with my greeting card company. Just going through ideas and figuring out that those key things I'm going to offer. So that's been exciting. I got about by the end of the month, so got about 4 weeks. I'm jonesing like I've been smoking something. Just can't wait to get it. So.
Hey, but, bro, I know the feeling.
Yeah, so that's been great, and work been smoothing out. So that's been great. Getting those rough edges been working out the last month and a half. Still got some things to do, but just as a leader, you gotta be stretched. And it's funny, this morning I ran across something from Miles Monroe, and he was talking about leadership and how how if those things that you have a passion about, if you died today and those things died also, how you are a failure. But as true leaders, it isn't about just the now. And as our brother Sherrod always says, from now to next, right? It isn't just about the now, it's about the now to next, and how do you bridge that gap when you're not here? So it's really important, even succession is important, right? Who's going to come after you? Who are you prepping for that? Because oftentimes people own businesses or have ministries, and that key person dies, and it's just like it's the end, or it's chaos.
Come on, bro. Look, you already in your motivational bag this morning. We already in your most motivational bag this morning. Let's keep it going, bro. I definitely understand where you're coming from, man. It's just, I pulled some all-nighters off of similar energy, just being excited about the vision and and different things. As my wife and I, we launched our coaching program within the last week. Um, got the group, got a private community. The community's growing. Definitely have some meaningful conversations this week. Some where people, where we're in a position to actually make a difference, help some folks, man, which is our heart. We're not just doing it for the exchange, right? It's not a transactional thing. But we believe we're though, we need to get paid. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. Like, we got to put food on the table. But like the seeds we're sowing, and I think that's part of it's our challenge, and I gladly take it on. Like trying to explain to people that you know one, we're gonna teach you to fish. We're not gonna give you fish and then keep you you know in hopes of keeping you coming back. We're gonna teach you to fish, and then we're sowing the sort of seeds that have generational impact. Like I was talking to a brother, and he was sharing his dreams and aspirations with me, and he was like, "Man, I want to do this, I want to do that," and I was feeling pumped, like just hearing him articulate his vision and how it was purpose driven, like purpose centered. Like he had it wasn't just it wasn't just to be transactional, but it was to share a message and to encourage and all the things that makes our hearts swell over here at the Brothers Influence Podcast. And it was like, man, if we were to work together, the things that I would share with you um, would not only position you to be successful, but I believe that you would want to turn around and teach it to your employees. I believe you would want to turn around and teach it to your children. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's how much of a mind shift, that we're offering as far as going from your now to your next. And I think that the challenges that can be difficult for people to see, right? Because they have their vision, and when we come along and we say, "Hey, man, we can help you. We can hope first of all help you increase your confidence, um, increase your influence, and help you make a bigger impact than you ever thought possible." That's that can be a little bit difficult for people to grasp.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge that I welcome, man, because I know it to be true, and like we talk about all the time, like these are all principle based teachings, which are universal laws. These are things that are in operation, regardless of if you're aware of them. So, as coaches, what Shawty, Sharad, and I do a lot of times is just help you become aware. Like these things are always there, but like, you know what I'm saying? We're saying you have this perspective. Okay, great. Well, if you just shift it slightly to the left, you'll see this opportunity here to capitalize because this law principle is in operation, and it will catapult you further than it would if you were just trying to do it leaning on your own understanding. And so, woo, boy, the work. But that's
The
what
work
makes
is
the work
real.
worth it for me, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. The work is real. And like sometimes I even think about what you were just explaining about how we try, how we get them to open, uh, uh, actually to change their perspective on certain things.
Yeah.
I think about if I'm going somewhere, just say if I have a normal route I take every day from work to home,
Mm-hmm.
and if I didn't know that there was construction going on, it's gonna take me longer to get home.
Mm-hmm.
But if I knew there was construction going on, or I knew that there was an accident, right? Somebody just came in the building and they said, "Hey, man, I was just coming down the street and it's an accident. So you need to take another route home." And that's kind of what we do. We kind of help you with that because yeah, there's things that certain people do consistently to make them successful. That doesn't mean that you can go that same route because you're an individual, and your
Mm-hmm.
business, you need to do certain things for your business or your vision to get you where you need to be, not where somebody else got to, but where you need to be. And that's
Right.
why there isn't just one cola company. There wasn't just one ice cream company, right? It's plenty of them. You can drive around the corner. It's different ice creams. You go into the supermarket. Is different type of brands. There's a reason why there's other ones. They all got their different ways, but the point is they're there, and that's what we want to help. That's what we help people do, gain that perspective, so that guess what, they can be one of those companies that's known, or or that their vision is known more clearer, whether it's a nonprofit or it's a for-profit business.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. And so that's what we're about. And so that actually leads me to another thought, man. It's like these uh, reality shifting conversations,
Mm.
and like it's possible to have these conversations every day, but oftentimes we end up stumbling into them, and when you walk away, you realize, like, man, it really changed the way I thought about a certain thing. You know what I'm saying? And the great thing about it is like, we at least have these conversations on a weekly basis because we show up on the podcast at 10 a.m. And we invite you to join us because every time we get together, man, it's a reality shifting conversation as we share. Iron sharpens iron. We build each other up, encourage each other, man, reminding each other why we show up every day, right? And what and our aspirations to be the best version of ourselves, to show up in the areas of our lives that are most important to us, uh, every every day, every day, man. Which is easily understated, man, because it's not easy. It's easy to get caught up in the business of life. It's easy to get caught up in the problems on your 9 to 5 job. It's easy to get caught up, period. Easy to get caught up in the worries of the world, everything going on in the news and everything like that, man. It can really slow a person down from showing up and being their best. But I was actually talking to somebody. I had the privilege of being at a networking event, and Sherrod was there, the leadership locksmith was there, and another brother who has kind of positioned himself more recently as a mentor to me. And we were just talking about how we can better position the podcast. We started talking about the podcast to
Mm-hmm.
serve the purpose that we want to serve the community, even to highlight the work that's being done. Um, and it was really, with it was like, man, we've been doing this almost 2 years, but in a 5 minute conversation, like I'm thinking totally differently. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think that the podcast has been, as is, has been amazing, just from the standpoint of we needed outlet,
Yeah.
right? We have due to different circumstances. We started the podcast in lockdown during the pandemic, right? The
Mm-hmm.
panorama. I don't know if we still getting flagged. I don't know if we still getting flagged online for saying the P word, the PAND word. But anyway, we started it there, and it was kind of like, um, we got a lot in us. We need to get it out there, and we want to touch base with these folks.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that each of us realizes that there's so much more to what we're called to do, and there's many more people that we need to reach and touch base with. So just being able to get a bit of inspiration and think outside the box
Yeah.
makes all the difference in the world. And so how do you position yourself for reality shifting conversations? Do you seek them out, or do you kind of just like, when they come, you want to take advantage?
Most definitely take advantage when they come, but I think, uh, especially when you're on a journey that we're on,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be intentional at
Mm-hmm.
the same time. You have to have those intentional conversations, because you always, whether it's on social media, in real life, you come across people or situations where the opportunity presents itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you say you're on a journey somewhere, opportunity is going to present itself along those lines. You just have to be conscious enough, kind of getting back to why we do what we do. We make people more self-aware about their mission or their vision. We just have to be conscious enough to recognize it and engage at that moment. I know there's been dozens of times that, later on, I think about, even on the podcast I've mentioned, man, I had a good idea earlier. I don't know what it is no more. Right? It was a good idea and you didn't take the opportunity to write it down, right? Or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing happens oftentimes. You're like, man, that was a perfect opportunity, met this person, perfect opportunity to engage. Uh, I think I was at work one time and doing some work, and a situation arose. A guy just got to talking, hey, this is what I do. I'm a coach. Uh, got a podcast. Oh man, I got a podcast. Da, da, da. So that conversation started, and just he was giving me some insight about what they've been doing, how they've been growing, and things like that. And so at that, I was able to take advantage of that opportunity at that time. But I can count, you know, plenty of times I did.
Hmm. Yeah, man. I think like you said, intentionality is super important. It's hard to really get very far without it. I found, um, and it's an interesting conversation as well because it's like, how does intentionality translate to your daily life? Because I know that there have been times where I've been on autopilot, and because I am often intentional, or I preach intentionality, or I teach intentionality. I say preaching because you got.
Yeah.
Uh, it's almost like people assume that everything that I do is intentional, which is not. It's not quite right. You know what I'm saying? The reason I teach it because I'm reminding myself of its importance. It's 9 times out of 10, and I know its value because I've reaped the benefits of it. But it requires like being present and mindful in ways that are necessary to our growth. Whether it's being present for my son or being present even for my wife. My wife's 8 months pregnant, man, and being intentional regarding making sure that she is feels cared for and is comfortable as possible, and that I share in her excitement of the life that's growing inside of her. Um, where to me, I'm like, man, I got to put my head down and work harder and get some stuff going because
Mm-hmm.
we got another mouth to feed on the way and blah blah blah. And I could easily be consumed by that and not be able to enjoy the process or enjoy her, going through this experience and sharing it with her.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, man. It's I think like too often we just will like you saying that autopilot tends can throw us off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we get so wrapped up into what we're doing, we miss those opportunities, or we even miss the things that we're supposed to be doing, right? Because of that autopilot thing, and especially with what they say about work, getting caught up in the rat race. Uh, you have these ideas and these things you want to do, and
Mm-hmm.
at the same time you got bills to pay. And but that's one of the things, back to what we do, right? We get people to gain perspective on those things, because no matter if you saying you don't have the time, you don't have the money, if you're able to sit down and take stock of what's going on in your life, the opportunities are there no matter
Mm-hmm.
what. If it's 10 minutes here, it's $5 here, right? Nothing happens overnight, but the opportunities are there if you're really intentional about what you want to do. You know, I've never met a person that didn't want to do something. Never. But more often than not, they're doing nothing
Right.
around those things they want to do, right? Because they can't see a way out of where they are. They Once again gets back to that what Shiraz says. They can't get out of there now to get to their next. Right?
Mm.
They're
Right.
stuck in there now. They're stuck in there now. They have an idea about their next, but there's a gap in between from now to next, because what's what you got to be able to gain some perspective and some ideas, and generate some momentum to get up that hill to your next. And too often they're just stuck where they are, right? They're caught in that rat race of paying bills, or having to take care of this, or having to take care of that. But there's always opportunity. That's my thing. I've learned that,
Mm-hmm.
being, even when I was in prison. That's where I learned that guess what, the opportunity, if I don't take advantage of the opportunity now, right, when I get out of prison, I'm not going to have any opportunities, right? Because I'm going to be stuck trying to either I'm either going to be stuck back where I started, right? Making a decision to say, you know what, I need some money, so I'm gonna do whatever I got to do to get it, or I'm gonna be stuck, just working for the rest of my life and never being able to accomplish the goals and the ideas and dreams that I have for myself and my family.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you talked about the rat race, bro. Like it's just easy. It's easy to get caught because it almost feels predictable,
Yeah,
right? There's a pattern to it. Like you get a biweekly paycheck, you show up every week for the same schedule, and so you get the output, which is that biweekly paycheck, and you're like, okay, I know this is enough to pay the bills and keep things going, and it's easy to believe that that's all there is. I mean, that's what adulthood looks like, right? I think one of the one of the things that we're walking out of the pandemic with is realizing like that's kind of a facade.
yeah,
Um, as though, you know, as a disruptor, like that whole experience really allowed people to step back and see, oh wow, there is more to this, and there are more options and opportunities. A lot of organizations are still wrestling with the fact, like trying to decide, like, we still trying to force everybody to come back to the office, or are we going to compromise and do hybrid? Couple days home, or are we going to just let people stay at home because people produce like. I think general conventional thinking pre 2020 would have been like, yeah, working from home is not a good thing. We can't keep track of people. We don't know what they're doing and whether work is getting done and all this and that. Well, they didn't have no choice. Their hands was forced, and guess what? People produced. People did
yeah.
work. You know what I'm saying? And so what happened? Where did the conventional thinking come from? So people assumed some stuff
Yeah.
and didn't give it a chance, and now people have had a taste of a better work life balance, and because they're not as stressed, or they have to worry about their daily commute. They're saving money on gas. You know, they're able to be a lot more flexible with their schedule, be present for their children. Nobody who wants to give that up. If I'm doing my job, you know what I'm saying. If I'm doing my job as good or better than I was before from home, then why would I want to give that up?
Yeah. Yeah. And some a lot of organizations, they get it, because they're, like you saying, they're either doing you staying working from home, or you're doing the hybrid. But then there's some that's just like, no, you coming back to work.
Yeah,
And some people aren't going back to work. You know what? Let me find something else. I've done the work you asked me to do when I wasn't in, even better. Okay, I'm gonna find somewhere else. And so, people, it's a free for all right now. That's for sure. With employees, because it's so prevalent. But people are, same time, people aren't staying. They're jumping
yeah,
from job to job, and this
yeah,
this isn't low level. That's the thing, though, right? This isn't low level people just working in the factory or something like that. No, this is across the board. And some people are, what we've learned from the past is that people that are stuck, or organizations that are stuck in their ways, blockbuster, you know,
hmm
you're non-existent anymore, right? I think they still got one store open or something like that, but stuff like that is like, and it's just uh, hard for people to fathom things like that, but
hmm
when it's right in front of
yeah, man. Shout out to Blockbuster, bro.
them.
Shout out to. Is that one store still open?
I'm not for
It's up
sure. I,
there in
I know it
Michigan, isn't it?
was. I don't remember, but yes, that's what
Yeah,
that's what happens to when a person looks, and it's just about, you don't have the right people, that right team, right? You're just stuck in their ways, and they don't look, and next thing you know, you're non-existent. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
Netflix
Overconfident.
Netflix is the man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I think being the age we are, like we were able to witness that, right? Um,
Yeah,
that whole thing, because I mean, I was the kid who got. It was Friday, and roll up in Blockbuster and find my video games, find my movies,
yeah,
and that's what rent them for the weekend, Like that was life.
Yeah.
And it was good, right? Back then, it was like, oh man, I get to pick out the movie, pick out something the family can watch together, pick out, you know, and maybe they had a popcorn machine in there. You could get your little popcorn on the way out. Uh, but yeah, man, I did a study. I was working for an organization, and they were big on innovation, and they used that as an example.
Okay.
One of the fun facts most people don't realize is like Blockbuster had the opportunity to invest in Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, they had the opportunity to buy Netflix. They declined.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think about the implications. Blockbuster could have bought Netflix. They could have owned the model, and they could still be around. The Blockbuster brand could still be around today. Well, everybody subscribed to the streaming service. It could be called Blockbuster. Have the blue logo, the blue with the yellow,
Yep.
everything. But because they passed, what is it? I don't even know. Like, what do you call it? Was it overconfidence? Like you said, they were stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, we got this weekend movie experience on lock. You can't touch us. This is not the future.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's exactly what it was. That they weren't seeing the future.
Yeah.
So,
Netflix came through. It was like, the internet is coming, fam. Because what people don't realize is like, they hit right when high speed internet was popping off.
Yeah.
When it was becoming accessible. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had transitioned from dial-up to like DSL. You know what I'm saying? Cable internet was just right, like, was happening. And Netflix popped up out of nowhere. It's like, yeah. Remember, we got those boxes on the corner. Those I thought those was cool. I thought those was right. You see like the similar like a red box. I guess red box is still out there.
Yeah.
But then you can subscribe to Netflix online, and they would send you the disc instead of having to go to the store and you mail them back and free of charge and all this stuff. Yeah. Yep. But that seems so short lived because they saw the internet. They was like, the internet's here. Let's go on and switch it over.
Yeah. And
it's been a wrap.
Right now they've been partnering with some of the big studios to produce like streaming shows. I think some Marvel stuff. So like they infants, but they the man.
Yeah, nah. At this point they got the industry on lock, and they keep raising the prices too. They got to the point now that they raised the prices a couple times. Now people are kind of like, man, I don't know how many more times I'm going to let you raise these prices. But you know what I'm saying? So it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to hold their leeway, their sway over people. They did do Marvel. That Marvel deal is actually over. They actually did produce 3 or 4 shows with Marvel, and moved on. But they produce their own content. They partner with studios and getting direct to streaming release movies and shows and
major actors and actresses are doing shows on them. So like
Yeah. I mean, I'm a subscriber, so but I'm a movie head and all that stuff. But, you know, Stranger Things Part 2 season 4 just came out. We was on that last night, so I ain't gonna front, but like
about that.
Huh?
I say I keep hearing about it. I ain't dived into it.
Oh man, I don't want to hype it up. If you do, bro, we got to talk about it. But yeah, man, it's one of those things, bro. It's like now we looking at them. You know, how many more times we gonna let you raise these prices? Because the whole thing about it was, you know, it kind of built up to an alternative of cable. I don't know if they ever saw themselves that way, but man.
But yeah, that's kind of where it moved to, because you know, cable, that was a consistent. You go get the cable company, you get the break for the 2 years, then they raise it up, and it's like, I'm out of here. Like, let me go to somebody else. And
they had a monopoly, right? There was nobody else you can go to. A lot of times when growing up, it was like, this is the only cable company in town. It's the only only company you can subscribe to. So you didn't really have no choice if they had a special or not have a special. And then, like you said, they do that for a year and they raise it on you, and you'd be like, man, where'd all this come from? So it's kind of like stepping back and looking at business. and even learning about business from our own experience. And we can learn a lot from these examples. Um, but it's like, with the streaming services, then we got multiple streaming services now, and it's like, okay, now this is pretty much we paying what we pay for cable, trying to keep up with
Yeah,
everything. When
yeah.
you,
Yeah, HBO, and you got Paramount, and you got this and
yeah,
Hula and this and that, and it's like, man,
yeah, yeah. And so, man, it's crazy, and it all comes, and like I said, like we said, it all comes down to that innovation, being able to be a visionary. Like what one of our mentors, John Maxwell, says. People, I've heard people get annoyed by this one. He said, see more and more and more before. It's like, okay, see more and more and more. What does that mean? Well, basically, innovate and be a visionary. When, look for the opportunities to take advantage and like throw your flag down and be like, listen, this is happening.
hmm
And the more you practice it, the better you get at it. And I think that's what we're trying to do with our podcast, with our businesses. We're trying to find those places where we can throw our flag down and mark out our territory. And in a lot of ways, we have done that. And I'm just excited about the future, where we're growing as individuals, as business owners, as our intellectual property and our the work that we're doing continues to expand. Man, so we got a lot to look forward to.
absolutely. I say I wouldn't, man. A couple years ago, you know, compared to a couple years ago before I met you guys, man, man, it's been a journey,
Yeah.
and I think that's a salute to what we're doing, right? Because we've worked out a lot of the things we're teaching or we're
Mm-hmm.
coaching about, right? Uh, over these last couple years, and man, even just the journey to the podcast, right? It wasn't easy. We
Mm.
I think we was me and Sherrod, which me and him met before we met you. We was talking about doing a podcast, and it just never happened. We did a couple recordings and everything. It just didn't happen. Then we met you, and you shared the vision that you had, and I was like, man, I'm like, I'm down. Like I know this is where I need to be. I'm like, you know what? I know somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then it came down to us, right? And it's like, even when we was finna start, it's like, okay, we starting this week. It ain't happen. We started this week, it ain't happen. But that didn't deter us because we knew that where we wanted to go with it, it was it was it was part of the passion each of us had for this work.
Mm.
And 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 here we are. And this isn't the end, right? We're still on this journey. We're still learning. We're still growing because we have families. Uh and we got other ventures going on, right? I think all of us can look back and be like, you know what, man, we've come, we've come a ways, and and yet we aren't to where we know we can be. And I think that's the most amazing thing about it, right? We still have this passion. Yeah, we have our moments, right? I've needed to be encouraged. You've needed to be encouraged. The ride needs to be encouraged, but we're still on that path, right? Because we have each other, right? So uh, I love it. I
Yes,
love it.
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. Like we said, we had to give ourselves permission to practice, and that's a continuous process, man. And I think learning to learning to slow down and enjoy the journey. Um, it's like you kind of referenced, like 2 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Man, I was sitting up in corporate, showing up every day from 9 to 5. I thought I didn't see beyond it. I didn't. I really didn't. Um, and so to be on the other side of that and have been in business for myself for a couple of years now, and still just like what sustained me 2 years ago isn't going to sustain me now, and I'm just grateful that I'm not on the journey alone. That I have my brothers I can call, I have mentors, and my family's support. I never could have imagined like what it would be like to be in business for myself and not have a organizationally sponsored insurance to help cover the birth of my child. You know what I'm saying? And that's like, ooh, that's kind of, but it's, we're blessed. We're blessed to have the means and be supported by work that we're passionate about, and not just something I'm having to show up to every day and make sure, uh, the lights stay on. And that's the kind of encouragement we want to give to others as well. Like, you don't have to be stuck in the matrix, bro. You don't have to. So give yourself, those dreams that you have, they're not by mistake. They're not by accident. It's just a matter of seeing the opportunities to kind of move forward. And what it is oftentimes it's like one step at a time, right? You may not take a giant leap. You may not turn around and quit your job on Monday, but there's some steps you can take today. Steps you can even take right now towards your dream. Change the direction, because your direction might be just heading back to that Monday through Friday pattern. You shift your direction slightly, and you could be on the way towards realizing your dreams. And a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months to a year, you could be in a totally different space, freer than you ever imagined, more empowered, more making a difference in the areas that you feel called to make a difference in. And we're living proof of that.
Yeah, let's give shout out to success and progress.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because that's part of the journey. And I think, like, I was thinking how amazing it is, right, to just to be able to see into your own future, right? So what do I mean by that? Because when you're able to stop on this journey called life, when you're able to stop at a point, you know, without having to move forward, and be able to say that, guess what, I can see from where I am today to where I want to be tomorrow. I can see it clearly. I know it's going to be a process, but I can see it. It's an amazing thing, right? Because when you're at that point, anything else you do around that, right? There's less stress, less misunderstanding, right, about what's going on in your life, because you're heading somewhere,
Right.
right? When I pack up, the times I packed up to come visit you guys, I know I'm going somewhere, right? It isn't just I'm jumping on the plane just to go say hi, hey, what's up, guys? No, there was something behind it. I seen the future. Because we made plans, right? Hey, we're gonna meet up here. We're gonna do this. We're gonna get together, get a chance to meet the family. Da da da. It was clear cut, right? Everything that was going on around me, leading up to then, I'm not being stressed about. I know, because I got a place I'm going to be in the future, and there's a purpose for me to be there. Same thing happened with the other guy. We had a fatherhood retreat. Same scenario, right? We planned it months in advance. And guess what? I'm going to be there, right? I can see that future. And when we got together at that point, man, it was revolutionary, right? I had already met half the guys. We get on a Zoom meeting every week, and I hadn't met some of them, but when we got together, and it was a consensus for everybody, right? It wasn't like we hadn't never met, right? And one of the brothers, he was like, hey, Shawty, da da da, like, man, nice meeting us for the first time. He like, man, what you talking about, man? We ain't never met. And then he had to think about it, right? He like, man, you right. But we built this relationship even over a Zoom meeting or a call, because I could call. We didn't call and talk to each other. But the relationship was developed even in the midst of that. It just seemed like, guess what? We've been together before. We've met. We've ate together. Da da. But the reality is, when I said it, and then he thought about it, he's like, man, you're right. We hadn't physically met yet, right? But that relationship was still there. So yeah, it's just amazing to be at that point where you can see your own future, man. Because at that time you have a peace about it. There all the things that's going on around you. Yeah, stuff happens, things are going on in your life, but they're a lot less stressful because you know where you're going.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, and that that just falls into a lot of what we talk about when it comes to knowing your values and alignment, right? At least that's what comes to mind for me. um, because I mean, to me, I hear you say those things, and I'm like, man, those are great opportunities, and I'm gonna be there because they align with who I am, where I'm going, and what I'm about. And so I see the investment, like the future investment, and the same thing. The same thing happens for our business as well. You know, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna show up in this space, and I'm gonna do this work uh, from week to week, day to day, even. And so I think that's vitally important as we kind of grow and be able to lead and trust ourselves um, to follow through. And I think that's a lot of what holds some people back.
Yeah, I think just using myself as example, I have before. Uh, I just grew up. I was really shy kid. Uh, kind of moved around a lot too. So uh, the friends that I considered friends, they were. I would have one, and then we would move. Would have one, then we would move. Things like that, and I just never had that sense of me, right? Of me,
Mm,
yeah, and especially not having that father figure in my life. And so what happens when we're not self-aware of who we are and our capabilities of what we can do. uh
mhm,
I used to get mad because people used to say I was so smart, but I didn't feel, even though I was doing good in school and stuff like that, I didn't feel like it because something was missing for me, right? That I didn't know that self. And and so eventually I began to act out around those things, right?
mm,
Because I didn't know me, so I felt like I had to make of me. And when I went down that route of trying to make me, I began to do things that I knew within myself were wrong, but I just needed something, right? I needed something to make me feel. And so that's what I did. I began to smoke weed and began to skip school, and all these things that I knew. I want to make this clear. I knew they were wrong. A lot of people say they tell their stories, but I just got to be honest. I knew they were wrong, but at the same time, I was lost. I was trying to find myself, and unfortunately, I found it in the wrong places. Another example I'll just use is even with I had a big brother, big brother, big sister thing, and this is still amazing me to this day. But this guy did the same thing with me that as the small memories that I do have of my dad growing up, the same thing he did with me. So I had this memory of this house, and I didn't know what it was or where it was from. And then as I got older, when I got back in touch with my father's side of the family, my aunt, it was my aunt's house that I had been at.
mm.
That was the house. Like literally, I walked in the house and it snapped like, oh, this is that dream I've been having. But what it was, my dad picked me up and dropped me off over there. So this big brother guy, he picked me up and dropped me off somewhere.
Hmm.
That like don't make sense, right? You're supposed to be picking me up, taking me somewhere, and da 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 da. So, but I'm saying all this to say it just goes back to how if we don't know who we are, if we're not able to become more self-aware of who we are, we
Yeah.
tend to do things outside of our destiny, outside of the things about who we really are and our potential of being uh that individual. uh so yeah, I just wanted to share that because I'm not that anymore. The journey that it took me to get to where I am, the bad part is it took me to getting in trouble. It took me to going to jail. It took me to going to prison. However, today I'm a better person because I finally found me and who I am. And that's my hope for anyone that would listen to this podcast, right? You can
Yeah.
find you, and there's hope in you, right? Even when people around you are saying that you're nobody and you just like your dad or you just like your mom or whatever, right? There's hope in you. There's potential in you to be whatever you desire to be. And we I just want to encourage you in that. You can write your own story and you can be that great individual you are.
Come on, bro. Yeah, man. I mean, if we could sum up the podcast today, I think that's it, bro. You just kind of, I just dropped the mic right there, and we could go ahead and shut it down, turn the lights off, close down the studio. Because really, man, that's really the heart. That is the heart of this work, bro. That is the heart of this work. And we talk about self awareness, and the value of the value. We testify of the value that we gain from becoming self aware, and I think that it can easily be understated. Was like, oh man, yeah, I've done a personality assessment. Yeah, I've thought about how I communicate, but what people don't understand, like, this is an ongoing journey, right? Like, it's not just a one assessment or one conversation or the one time somebody told me something about myself and I realized they was right, bro. I need to consistently invest in my awareness, especially the more success I experience. It is statistically proven that the more successful a person is, or the more power that a person has, the more influence a person has, the less self-aware they are.
Yeah.
And so that's why people talk about how you cannot afford to have nothing but yes men around you, the more successful you become. That's really what they're talking about. You need somebody there that can tell you no. And it has everything to do with your ability to be self-aware, to see your own limits, to see where you might be overstepping. And man, shoot, we can even touch on what happened at the Grammys recently.
Yeah.
Because you could, and I'm not even gonna call it out. You probably know what I'm talking about. But the level of conviction that our guy walked up on that stage with, like, maybe he was sober after the fact, like, oh man, like, the implications of what I just did is crazy. But that's just an example. Like, that's an example, an extreme example of how lost you can get in the sauce if you're not careful. And this was on the biggest night of his career, and we all know that man has an amazing career. That resume is extra long. You know what I'm saying? Resume is extra long, and in the hearts and minds of Americans who've been able to watch him, and people all over the world, like, he had submitted himself as this personality, this somebody we would never expect something like this coming from, because it's not a part of his brand.
Yep.
But because of, you get lost in that sauce, man. And I'm not even sure, what contingencies could have been put in place in that moment. But like, man, that's one of those things. Like, man, I wish security would have tackled me before I got up out my seat. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
what could you say after the fact? Because after the fact, you realize, you're like, bro, I messed up. But in the moment, you're like, oh yeah, I'm this guy, and this is what I'm finna do, and everybody's gonna understand. Nah, bro, you crossed the line, and possibly cost your everything that you've achieved could be going down the drain because of it. And that's what we don't want to. We don't want to risk that for ourselves. And the things that we have a heart to do, we know that that's a very human experience. And we need to not only continue to cultivate self-awareness, we need to make sure we're surrounded by people who are capable of helping us when we are a little bit lost in the sauce, and be like, no, bro, that's not it.
Yeah.
So we don't want. So when we say this, man, we're trying to practice what we preach, and we understand that, even at the beginnings of these journeys that we're talking about, doing what we're called to do and being in positions where we're making the impact we want to make, We need self awareness, and that need's only going to increase as we go.
Yes, sir. We all have a seed of greatness within us. The question is, will you leave that seed on the shelf, or will you plant it in some fertile soil, begin to water it, right? Make sure that it's aerated so the air gets through to it, and the sunlight is hitting it properly, so that seed can die and then begin to grow. Because that's the reality. When you plant that seed, that it dies and then it begins to grow. That death brings forth life.
Mm,
So we want to encourage you to water your seed, plant it and water it so that you can manifest your greatness.
come on, bro. Come on, bro. Man, I hope you're taking some of these things to the kids you're mentoring right now, because I know, hey man, I wish I'd heard it when I was their age.
Yeah, yeah. I'm working. I'm working. I just that's one of my goals was, man, just being able to reach. If I can reach one, because I tell you, man, it's I have a cousin, I have a nephew, and yeah, they in prison or on their way to prison, or fighting cases, and like been talking to them for the last 9 years, and it's like some people you just can't. All you can do is just give them that knowledge and let them know, hey, this what it was for me, and you don't want to be doing 15 and a half years. But unfortunately, my nephew, he's on that track, and it's like, man, ain't nothing I can do now. Like I did what I could do.
Mm,
So with the young man, what I just what's great about the program is we're able to be us, right? That this program ain't restricted. It's about being honest, and being able to share our stories with these kids. They still
yeah.
ultimately have to make the decision, but just being able to share my story with them and encourage them that they can do great things. And part of the program, like they tell them, like, hey, because a lot of them are on probation and things like that, but they tell them in the program, hey, if we're going to help you get whatever you need,
Mm,
whether it's clothes, whether you want to go to college. We're here to help. We got a doctor in the group. We got a serial entrepreneur. He's in the group. We have a wide array of individuals that's here helping these children, that's giving part of their lives to these kids, and hopes that they'll do great things. They won't go to prison, right? They'll get off their probation, and be able to be great men in society and
mm.
women. So
Amen, bro. Hey, and the beautiful thing about it is like when the way we approach living out our calling is being able to express it, no matter where we are or who we're with, being our authentic selves. And I think authenticity is one of those things that's kind of really a popular concept right now. But like, don't underestimate the ability to show up and be who you are, be who you're called to be wherever you go, um, and and how that translates to your personal well-being, right? Because the reason I gravitate towards that so strongly, and I advocate for it, is because I grew up in church, and much of my life, you have a separation. Like we have a separation between the secular and the spiritual, right? And we would we it almost conditioned me to show up on Sunday, show up on Wednesday, because that's where life was, and then be a shell of myself outside of those spaces. And I struggled for years, you know. And what it did is cause me to compartmentalize and be divided. I had a certain way I was at church, and I had a certain way I was at school, and I had a certain way I was around the circle of friends that I had, and you know, people see me, they be wondering how this might be that translate to looking like three different people. And at some point in my journey, I was like, man, I can't do this no more. I'm gonna be 100% me no matter where I am, no matter where I am, and whatever I'm called to do, I don't believe it's limited to the four walls. And who I am as a person, the things that I like, that I enjoy, and um, you know, I don't feel like I need I need to have a certain space where I can only be that.
Yeah.
And so and it's helped me tremendously from a mental health aspect and so many things. But ultimately, what we want is for each and every one of us to be able to be the best version of ourselves, to show up authentically, and to make the sort of impact that we feel like we're called to make.
Awesome. Awesome, bro. I think this was a great one. I'm encouraged, for sure.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
missing my brother Sherrod, but he got things going on, which are great. We all, like you said earlier, we all got individual businesses, we got families, and uh, but we are all committed to the Brothers Influence podcast and community.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and man, I can't. Next year around this time, gonna be a beautiful thing.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir. So this is thank you for rocking with us at the Brothers Influence podcast, where we stand to encourage, inspire, and add value in the areas of life, leadership, and community. It is July 2nd, 4th of July weekend. We appreciate you rocking with us for episode 20. I want to say, is it 19? 19 to 20, bro. You remember? We
No.
almost losing track.
Yeah.
But hey, man, we're going to keep showing up. We're going to be back here next Saturday at 10 a.m. Rocking with the best. We out.
All right. Don't blow your fingers off.